the I guess the idea was fairly simple, to take mapping and apply it to the internet. And there were a few other companies trying to do it, but no one with the very cool technology of sort of what was called vector-based mapping, which is what we all use today, where the map is actually alive, not just a picture.
That was very ahead of its time.
I think we were the first. I know there were other people putting maps on the internet, but I think we were the first to put vector-based mapping, which is what the kind of technology you use today on the internet, and door-to-door directions. So it was cool. I remember my brother and I pressing go on his server at our office, and it took about 60 seconds for the first door-to-door directions to come up on the screen. And even 60 seconds was amazing.
Yeah.
You're like, this is incredible. Door-to-door directions to anywhere. This is just amazing. And
definitely seemed amazing at the time.
Definitely seemed amazing at the time.
Yeah, it's like
now it's like so
now it's like
absolutely
wherever.
normal, but this was like an impossible thing.
So cool.
It was so cool. And using Java, Elon had coded a interactive map, which again, all super normal stuff today, but the ability to just draw a square and zoom in or zoom out, that was just unheard of technology.
Draw a square.
Yeah, you remember that? It was like a little red square on the Java map.
On a browser, it was weird. That was unusual.
Yeah.
Yes. You just
Well, you cheated if you're using Java applets.
Yeah, but this is when Java sucked and was barely.
Yeah, this was like probably the most.
It was 95.
I think we even got some sort of recognition because it was the most advanced Java application on Java at the time, because it was so ridiculously hard. It was a really crappy technology at the time, but this was done on it.
The thing is, that if you downloaded the Java app, we could transmit the vector data, not just a bitmap. And this is when everyone was on a modem.
Right.
So if somebody's on 28 kilobits modem, or trying to download a map image would take forever. Whereas if you had, but downloading the vector data that locally rendered using the Java applet was relatively speaking super fast. That's what made it cool.
Smart.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, even like vector maps, even Google Maps was using like raster maps a few years ago. Like, it seems like very ahead of its time.
Well, we were the
But I
first.
guess-
I believe the two of us were the first humans to see maps and door-to-door directions on the internet, which I think is pretty cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
How Garmin came out? When did Garmin first launch?
Well, they weren't internet-based, right? So you could. Actually, I don't think Garmin was even a player at this point. It was Navtech was the only place that we were. That's where we got the data from.
Yeah.
And they were building it for Hertz Neverlost, which came out a few years later. You know those things that no one uses in the GPS systems. Really, really bad technology, but the actual mapping data was amazing. And so we took that and applied it to the internet. We were 22 and 23 at the time. It had cost them $300 million to build this data, and they gave it to us for free with a simple contract saying, if you ever make any money on this, you got to come
share it
us.
with them. Yeah.
And that's how we got it.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so it's amazing what happens if you ask nicely. And there's also part of it was these guys had been working so hard on the tech, and no one had ever seen what they were doing.
Yeah.
Because it was not on the internet and it was not being used for Hertz, and so it was just they were excited that someone would use the data and people could see what they'd been working on.
So how did you guys get the engineering chops to pull this off? Because it sounds like you were so young, you didn't really have any help, and then you built this like cutting edge piece of technology. Did you teach yourselves, or
from I don't know what age, but you published your first
the like Blast Star game, right?
Yeah, when he was 12.
Did you write any other cool stuff back then?
Yeah, I wrote a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And then like occasionally software for people that ask for software.
You also work for a video game company.
Yeah, finally it was called
Rocket science.
Yeah.
That's funny.
By the way, we took a SpaceX tour yesterday. It was insane.
Thank you for that. That was amazing. Yeah, it was so good.
It's like Batman's lair in there.
That's right.
It's really cool.
Really is amazing.
But it gives you perspective on what Tesla's doing because the technology is so advanced, and there's interchange of information there. Like I know they used the Inconel fuse, right? It was from SpaceX when they couldn't get the power output, right? It kept burning up the fuse in the performance models. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see the SpaceX tech being applied to Tesla. I think there's one joint employee between SpaceX and Tesla, and it's the materials. Is it the materials engineer?
What about Elon?
Of course, Elon. In addition to Elon, because there's just not that many humans on the planet that know how to do this stuff.
No. Well, it sounded like back in the old days, was it just Elon doing the coding, or?
I mean, I did a little for like HTML front end coding, but it wasn't mine.
Not recently, but no, we had no money, so we couldn't employ him. So I just wrote all the software.
And you worked through the night, right? You just never. According to my book, you just never slept. I don't know.
I mean, we lived in a little office. I think this address was 470 Sherman Way in Palo Alto. It was probably.
It was about the size of this room here.
Yeah, it was probably like 15 feet wide by 30 feet long with a little closet in the back. And we would we couldn't afford a place to sleep, or like a house, a home or apartment. So we would sleep in it, and it had a couch that was a futon, and we would pull out the futon, take turns sleeping on the futon or the floor. Although he coded a lot at night, so I usually got the futon at night. And we had to code it at night because the server, when the internet was live, needed to be functional, and we just had data for the Bay Area at the time, so we were just kind of making sure that the people in the Bay Area could use it. And then I had a little mini fridge with a cooking stove on it, and we'd cook simple things, like pasta sauce and pasta and things like that. That would be as cheap as dirt. People think it's expensive to eat real food. It's actually really cheap.
Yeah.
You cook vegetables, pasta, and
beans and stuff.
Beans, super cheap.
So we had that Jack in the Box
absolutely
lot.
The cheapest. And then we would go eat at Jack in the Box, which I still kind of shiver a little. And I haven't eaten there for probably 20 years or longer, maybe 22 years, and I can still probably recite the entire menu.
Yeah, we cycled through the menu at Jack in the Box because it was like just a few blocks away from.
And it was open 24 hours.
Open 24 hours. Trying to get dinner at Palo Alto after 10 is very difficult.
Zero.
Yeah.
So did they know you very well at Jack in the Box?
Well, they didn't really.
No.
They didn't?
No. And I remember one time I got a milkshake, and I was so tired. It was like 4 in the morning, and just needed to get some sugar for the rest of the night. And there was something in it.
Oh, no.
And I remember just flicking it out and just pretending it didn't exist and just kept drinking my milkshake.
Oh, that's horrible.
It was like that. We were that kind of like not in the zone to go back into Jack in the Box and argue about a milkshake, but I don't want to not drink the milkshake.
And part of the reason that food was like so cheap is that they had some people I think died of food poisoning.
Yes, of course. It was right around that time when they got into a food poisoning scare.
So it was just very cheap to eat there. And I figured they probably have taken some action because after the food poisoning.
Yeah,
so hopefully,
that sounds.
It's just like. But I still eat a little bit of it, it just tastes funny. Stop eating if it tastes funny.
You run out of things to eat because after like the 17th chicken fajita pita, you're like,
chicken fajita pita.
Can't do it.
The teriyaki bowl. Yeah, remember that teriyaki bowl?
Was that one good?
It's actually, it varied, but it was edible. It was not bad.
Which one went?
The teriyaki bowl.
Teriyaki bowl wasn't bad. There was the sort of sourdough grilled cheese thing that wasn't bad.
Yeah, I honestly didn't mind it. Really.
Those were the good old days, right?
I mean, it was honestly good days. I mean, we were just hoping that people would let us stay in the country. Yeah. We weren't really that worried about what we were eating. We were just doing everything we could to get someone to support the company. We didn't really I didn't understand the venture capital world that much, so we were doing a seed round, an angel round, and doing our best to talk to everyone and anyone we could find. We had a very good friend with us, Greg Curry, who's now passed away, who was older than us by about 10 years, I think. And was a wonderful mentor, helped us out, and put a little money in as well. And then I did a lot of the work to just network with people. I think with our first salesman who was selling Yellow Pages ads for us, was a real estate agent who knew another person who knew this other person who helped us raise or put together. We ended up not doing the round, but put together a round of like $200,000 or something.
Yeah.
And then
we did like part of it or something. I don't know.
But I think once we had the Java map, which was really quite impressive. I mean, if you've never seen Google Maps or Yahoo Maps before, it really is a remarkable thing to see. We started to go to we got some audiences with some venture capitalists, and it just went from we were starving, we had no car, well, the car we had broken.
The wheel fell off.
Huh?
The wheel fell off.
The wheel fell off, yeah.
What kind of car was it?
I remember that.
It's an old BMW 3 Series.
Was it the one you
where
worked
we
on?
did a road trip across the country.
Yeah, the one that my mom has some pictures of.
I think there's still there's a carve in the road at Page Mill and El Camino.
Literally, the wheel came off.
The wheel fell off, and the guy
Literally in the intersection.
just drove it without the wheel to the side.
It's pretty much time for the junkyard at that point because the whole car is just falling apart. So, yeah, it's like the point at which the wheel falls off. It's time to go to the junkyard.
Kimball, the night before you met the venture capitalists, you and I were at Kinko's till 2 a.m.
No, that was way more stressful. That was way later because we already had the deal, but we were not. I don't know if you were, but I was not legally in America, so I was illegally there.
I was legally there, but I was meant to be doing student work.
Oh yeah, right.
I had a student work visa.
Yeah, you were doing you were supposed to be doing a PhD in Stanford and decided not to.
So it was like I was allowed to do work, sort of supporting whatever, I don't know.
Whereas I try to get a visa, but there's just no visa you can get to do a startup.
Yeah, fortunately nobody was paying you anything either.
And so we ended up getting. We got a deal from Moore Davidow and this really well-respected VC firm, and we had to break the news to them that we took the bus to get to the offices. We don't have a car and we don't have an apartment, and we're illegal.
No, you're illegal.
And so,
but I was legal, but my visa was going to run out in 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, but I was definitely
student visa.
We needed to get it sorted, and so they were great. I mean, the lead investor, his wife was from Canada. They knew the whole challenge of being an immigrant, and we had Canadian passports, and so they funded the company and they gave us some money to each buy a car, and they gave us a salary so we could rent an apartment, and I got a visa through the company. But the morning we were supposed to present to the partners, I went to Toronto because my mother was freaking out because she needed her computer fixed. And
what, really?
Seriously, this is brutal. So I flew out there planning to fly back on Sunday, and the meeting was on Monday. And I get to the airport on Sunday, and the border control they call me out. They're like, you're going down to work. You're not going down for travel. And I was like, no, I'm going down to work. I explained. Actually, no, I didn't. I said I'm not going to work because I think that's what I was supposed to say. But the lawyers told me not to say anything, and so they rejected me from the border. Oh. And so I'm supposed to do the presentation with Elon the next morning, and so a friend of mine came to pick me up at the airport and drove me across the border, and we went to the Buffalo border and just said we're going to go see the David Letterman show.
Nice.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And the border control guy was like, "Yeah, go ahead."
Oh. Wow, that's amazing.
I got on the late night flight from Buffalo to San Francisco, and we made the meeting in the morning. So
very good.
Yeah, I mean, technically, you were not going out to work because that would have meant you were being paid something.
Yeah, I wasn't actually paid anything. Yeah. Technically, we weren't actually. No, you're right.
You're not actually breaking the law.
We're not breaking the law because we were not being paid anything. Exactly. Yeah. I should have told them that at the border control. But anyway, it was very frustrating.
Do you mean getting paid for something? No, I'm not doing that.
No, yeah, you're right. Exactly. We were not being paid. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so then they approved the deal that Monday, and we started building Zip2. And it wasn't a business model for back in those days.
Well, it was kind of like Yelp is like the business model is similar to sort of Yelp, but it was at a time when most businesses didn't know what the internet was, and most people didn't have an email address or they went online.
Explain to them what a website was. The internet was kind of this cool thing. People were using Netscape browser, and I think by the end of it, we got 18,000 businesses to be on our service, paying to be like with websites and everything.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that you can do today, like automatically build websites, we built a lot of those sort of tools to make it easier to build websites, and we had to sell door to door because that was the only way.
Did you hire people, or is it just you guys going door to door?
No, we had a team by that time because we could hire a team. But I remember talking to a Yellow Pages guy once, and it was amazing. It was the head of the Toronto Star that they owned all the Yellow Pages.
The Yellow Pages will never die. Famous last word.
Literally, because we went and talked to him to partner. We said we want to part with you, and let's be one of your partners to put the Yellow Pages online. And he picked up the Yellow Pages, this book, this big thick book that's full of ads, this multi-billion-dollar revenue stream.
I mean, these guys were so arrogant and we are the kings of the world, and seriously, it will never end.
He picked up this book and he threw it at me, and he said, "Do you ever think you're going to replace this?" And I was just literally like, I mean, my head is like, dude, you're already dead.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Reminds me of the anti-Tesla people, Gas cars will never die.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we saw the growth of the internet. We saw the use of the Yellow Pages. We saw even all our competitors and stuff. And no one was using the paper Yellow Pages if you had the choice.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
No one.
Yes, that's very true.
And so at that point, very few people were on the internet. So it was really a question of is the internet going to succeed, which we were huge believers in, and these guys were not. They didn't even clue in.
Yeah, but it was like one foreign country after another. We would say, like, listen, we'll just put your Yellow Pages online. It's going to cost very little. You'll still own all the content and everything. And they're like, they'll just throw us out of the office.
Yeah.
Like, no. And how dare you even suggest this?
It was extraordinary, and it's been interesting.
And we're like, okay, I guess we'll just build it. And then But
it's been interesting to watch over the years where, like in PayPal, the competitors were not banks, even though that should have been the competitor.
No, there were banks that tried to compete.
But wasn't it eBay mostly that was sort of the bank?
Well, eBay had something called Bull Point. But it wasn't exactly like PayPal.
Yeah.
Generally, eBay had an issue with trying to get payment for stuff. Like two people would have to mail checks to each other.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
If you mail a check and you receive the check, and how do you know the check's real? Then you've got to, cash a check and take 2 to 5 days for the money to transfer. So it could take 2 weeks before somebody had confirmed payment, and then they would ship you the item, and so the transaction velocity was very low as a result. If you had instant payment, you could improve transaction velocity dramatically, like a factor of maybe 3 to 5.
Yeah, but I've just sort of seen that when an industry is disrupted, you worry about the major players. I mean, we remember when we started Tesla, we were aspiring to be the GM of the 21st century. 4 years later, GM went bankrupt. You're like, oh, okay, we don't need to be GM. We're good. And it's whoever is going to be the main competitors, we don't know yet, but it may not be the entrenched players. It may be not, sort of other companies. And so that happened at Zip2, where we tried our best to partner with the industry because that seemed like the best way to make some money and actually have a revenue model. And we ended up finding the newspapers to be a better partner because they didn't have the Yellow Pages business. And I think they were smarter. Their classifieds business was getting eaten away by Craigslist. Before Craigslist, classifieds was the bread and butter of the newspaper. And of course, anyone who used Craigslist would never use the newspaper. So it was those folks seemed to have a better, at least some of the players had a more